Hey guys, I'm AfroGeek PlusUltraNappy and welcome back to a special new video. In today's video, I'm finally going to be doing my first anime review over the fan service series, My First Girlfriend is a Gal. Now, some may differ and say that, oh, I don't think this is a fan service anime. No. This is a fan service anime. Now, I wouldn't say this would be like the definition of a fan service anime, but this is a prime example of what a fan service anime is. I'm gonna leave an image of that way you guys can kind of get a definition of what fan service means. Basically, what it kind of is in my terms, or I guess in a way I can explain it to you guys, is something that kind of caters towards the audience. And when you think of fan service animes, you think of more of like Prison School, High School of the Dead, Trinity 7, Why the Hell Are You Here, Teacher? Those are just a couple prime examples of what it kind of is. Even Shimonetta, that's another great example of what fan service anime is. I saw this series a while back, not even a while back, like I want to say maybe 2018. Actually, let's say 2018 I saw this series. It's very funny. The character developments, throughout the series increase for some actually for all characters. I like how each character is different and unique, and it kind of helps blend in. They all blend in kind of with each other, if I can say it like that. And it just makes it like just a overall unique comedy style, and it's very different from like anime series that you kind of see now. And what I liked about it was some of the voice work, and I want to point out that there is spoilers in this anime review. So if you do not want to be spoiled for the series, you want to watch it for yourself, click off the video, go watch it, and then come back. That way you can, I guess, see my review over it. But I do want to let you know that this is a spoiler alert, so there will be spoilers. Without further ado, I guess let's, I talk so much already, so let's go ahead and let's jump on into the review. So basically a series synopsis over the show My First Girlfriend is Gal. It's based on the manga series written by Manaru Yurino. I probably butchered his last name. I'm terrible with pronouncing certain names. So the anime series follows high school boy Junichi Hashiba as he begins to grow annoyed and lonely after not having a girlfriend, as his classmates have seemed to pair up with one another. His single friends force him into confessing his love to Yukana, who is basically your typical beautiful gal at the school. I'm gonna keep it real. It says that they want him to confess his love for her, even though when you first get into the series, it's not really shown that he loves Yukana. It's more of like he doesn't really like her like that, let alone does he really even know Yukana, because he knows of her, and I guess this sort of reputation of her being some sort of, I guess you would say it, home wrecker, or she belongs to the streets.
She belongs to the streets.
Which, that's what this whole rumored reputation about her has spiraled around the school. But Junichi really doesn't know her. As I was saying, his single friends force him to confess his love to Yukana, a beautiful gal at the school. Although Yukana easily is determined that Junichi just wants to lose his virginity and not really want to date her for her, she not only agrees to go out with him, but she decides to become his girlfriend. Just imagine, your friends are like, why don't you go ask out the sluttiest girl at school? And then he, just being like, I don't know, guys, she ain't really my type. Nigga, just do it. And then you ask her out, and she's like, oh, okay, I see your game, I see you ain't slick, but you know what, fuck it, I'm gonna go out with you, and you know what, I'm gonna be your girlfriend. It's just like, hey. It's a weird scenario, and as time goes on, they really get to know who they are. Yukana gets to know who Junichi is. Junichi gets to really know Yukana for her. You kind of see like their friends kind of like, they have little plans of their own to kind of like get either in between them or to help them out, and overall it's just a big old mess as time goes on. Let's go ahead and let's go into the characters. So you got Junichi Hashiba, who is voiced by Alejandro Sal. Let me just be clear that this is the English dub. I'm going to be reviewing the English dub, not the Japanese sub. And Junichi is a second-year high school boy who wishes to have a girlfriend, like I explained in the series synopsis. And then you got Yukana Yami, who is voiced by Jamie Marchi. I think that's how you pronounce it, Marchi. And Yukana is a fashionable high school gal with strawberry blonde hair, green eyes, and as some would say, she is developed in certain areas. As I review this, after saying that, I realize I sound super creepy. And let me come off this real quick and say I am not a creepy person whatsoever. I'm just giving my personal anime review. Do I like fan service anime? Is it my favorite type of genre of anime? No, it is not. But some series I happen to own fall into that category of fan service anime, and some series that I have watched, rather it's from streaming on Funimation or from watching on Hulu or just from watching on Adult Toonami or Adult Swim, you know, it just happens to be it. She's very guarded about perverted stuff, calling it gross. Underneath the way she is, and she may come off in the series, she's very caring, and you know, she's very friendly and just overall respectful for others and their feelings, which is why I really like Yukana, because she's not the typical girl that you may think she is when you see this series. So you also got Ranko Hanjo, who is voiced by Morgan Garrett, and she's Yukana's childhood friend. She's tall, she's a tan skin gal, but she just has tan skin. And she has short blonde hair, light purple eyes, and once again, she's more developed in certain areas. She's very aggressive, very explicit sexually too. Overall, very caring and very overprotective over Yukana, and she always makes sure that no one messes with her, no matter if it is her boyfriend, random people, friends of theirs, doesn't matter. She is like, nah, you's not finna mess with my homegirl. Then you got Nene Fuganami or Fujinoki. I can't pronounce her last name very well, but she's voiced by Brittany Latte. I'm so sorry, guys. I am terrible with butchering names. I apologize. But she is a petite, but also very developed in certain areas. First year high school girl who styles her hair in a bun. And she and Junichi are childhood friends. And actually, it gets to the point where she becomes, throughout the series, obsessed with Junichi. Because, and I think what it is because when they were younger, you see this, I forgot what episode it is, but you see this to where when they're younger and they talk about when they're older and they talk about getting married and stuff like that, not to each other, but just overall settling down in the future with someone, and they make a pact that if any of them, when they're older, if none of them, Nene or Junichi, don't end up with anyone, then they have agreed to get married. So you can be the judge for that, and you can tell where that will go in the series. Yui Kashi, who is voiced by Allison Victorin. She's Junichi's classmate and his class representative, who has long dark hair and reddish eyes, and she's Junichi's friends. She is one of Junichi's friend, and she happens to be very smart, and you know, she's like your typical idolized honor roll, goody two shoes, could do nothing wrong girl. Then you got Shinpei Sakamoto, and who is voiced by Brad Samedon. I can't pronounce his last name either. All of his friends, including Junichi, are very, very perverted. You even catch him in the first episode reading dirty magazines in the classroom, surrounded by all their peers. Like, who does that? Like, I would never do something like that. And then you got Kango Ishida, who is voiced by Jacob Browning, and he's a blonde-haired classmate who's part of the group of Junichi's circle. And then you got Manaru and Manaru Kobayakawai, and he is voiced by Chris George. He is the very large fellow and by far the most perverted, predatorial person I have ever seen in an anime series. Like, this dude is a straight up child predator, and it is gross. This is one thing I kind of was curious as to why I make a character like this. This dude is literally obsessed with little girls, and I'm not talking about middle school girls. I'm talking like this dude is obsessed with girls like elementary school wise, like preschool, like little girls. And it is the grossest fucking nastiest thing ever. And that's the one thing I don't like about this series is Manaru. The character, just that character is just like, why would you want to make a character like that? Like, that's not like, it doesn't even come off as funny. It just comes off as gross and really creepy. His friends acknowledge that in the series, to where they say little comments like, I wouldn't let this dude near a school, or I wouldn't let this dude near my own kids, and in the future you're gonna end up being the dude that has to go around the neighborhood and say, I am a registered sex offender. Like, they say jokes like that, and it's just like, that's something really you shouldn't joke around about. Like, that's actually really disgusting. That is the character. So now let's go ahead and kind of get into the episodes. So we kind of have the first episode titled My First Time Begging For It. Basically, it starts off with the beginning of sophomore year of high school for Junichi and his friends, and Junichi's kind of watching around, seeing everybody talking about hooking up over the weekend. You know, we're like hearing couples say, oh, we're finally gonna do it over the weekend, and I'm gonna tear that ass up, girl, and I hope you got protection. All that stuff. And Junichi's kind of like, oh man, you know, I kind of wish I had a girl I can say that kind of stuff to. I wish I didn't feel so lonely, you know, I kind of want someone. You know, he meets his friends in the class, and they're all going over like really like perverted stuff, which kind of creeps Junichi out. When his friends start to read erotic magazines in class, Junichi is caught holding a copy in front of the popular student Yukana, who gets disgusted. And as the day goes on, his close friends choose Junichi to ask her out. And they believe she is the gal type of high school who is very promiscuous and is very like out there sexually, when she's really not. They place a confession letter in her shoe locker, and Junichi is shocked when Yukana, approaches him and is like, hey, Junichi, I got your letter. Can we talk for a sec? And basically, he basically gets down on his knees and screams, will you go out with me? Yukana at first kind of chews him out because she's like, weren't you that guy that I saw reading the erotic perverted magazines with your little buddies? And then she's kind of like second guessing it, but then she goes like, you know what? Fine, I'll go out with you. As a matter of fact, I'll be your girlfriend, which throws Junichi completely off. Despite, all the assumptions, she finds him funny and somewhat even cute. And basically that's it of the first episode. That's really it. Then you get into the second episode called My First Karaoke. The day after the confession, Junichi is still in shock about the events that happened. He's like, what the hell? How did that work? So on the way to school, Shinpei suggests that he takes Yukana to that very popular karaoke bar that's in the city. I think it's in the city. And normally Yukana and Ranko, that's like something that they do together. Even Junichi and his friends do that together. They go to the karaoke bar and they sing like anime openings. Shinpei develops this ideal that if you take Yukana into a private room, you guys sing like, romantic like love songs and stuff. That's gonna instantly make her wanna like climb on top of you and just ravish you. Junichi's like, nah fam, I don't think I really want to do that. I don't think that's gonna work. He ends up asking Yukana, hey, you want to go to the karaoke bar? Shortly after, Yukana announces to his whole class that yes, Junichi is my boyfriend, so ladies, hands off. They end up going to an arcade bar on their first date. And Junichi's very nervous because he keeps being reminded of Shinpei's plan to kind of like do everything in order to get her basically to go on top of him. And throughout the series, he has all these like fantasy flashes of like Yukana like getting ready to give him that neck, or Yukana getting ready to like climb on top of him and ride and all that stuff that I'm not gonna get into. As time goes on, Junichi starts actually having fun with Yukana. They even sing a couple anime opening themes, and Junichi's actually very shocked because he's like, whoa, Yukana, you like anime? I didn't think a girl like you would like anime. And she was like, oh yeah, I'll watch anime, who doesn't? And so they start having a ball, start singing anime theme songs, and then once things kind of like the heat of the moment kind of kicks up, Junichi tries to kiss her, but she like turns down his advances and runs out the room and is kind of like, I'm not that, and she kind of says to herself, I'm not that type of girl, Junichi, why would you do that? Episode 2, that's kind of where you really get to know Yukana, and it's finally kind of like out there in the open that Yukana is not the girl that everybody assumes she is. And as they leave the karaoke bar, Ranko notices them and is just kind of like, from a distance, she's just kind of like, And that basically ends episode 2. Leading into episode 3, my first spray on girl. Junichi receives a letter in his shoe locker and feels obligated to meet this stranger. He ends up meeting Ranko, who aggressively seduces Junichi until Yukana walks over and stops the whole ordeal. And afterwards, Ranko basically, is just like, oh, we're just kidding. And Yukana goes on and says, oh yeah, Junichi, this is Ranko. This is my childhood friend. We've known each other since we were kids. And so once Yukana and Ranko go off, Ranko secretly vows to destroy Junichi and to get them to basically end their relationship. Basically what ends up happening is after that whole little ordeal where Ranko secretly vows to destroy the relationship, Yukana kind of comes up with this idea why don't the three of us hang out? We go do some shopping, just kind of hang out, get to know one another. And so as the day goes on, they're shopping. Junichi and Yukana are kind of being a little cutesy and stuff like that. Ranko is secretly getting jealous as it progresses more and more. And basically you get to really see more of that. She is very protective of Yukana and is like, nah bro, this relationship thing ain't finna happen. So while they're hanging out in the city, these two guys approach Yukana and Ranko and basically are like, hey, why don't you come hang out with us? Let's have some fun. And Yukana's like, sorry guys, but I'm not really about that. And Junichi feels some type of way about it because he's like, wait a minute, I'm not gonna sit here and be no little punk ass boy while these two dudes try and get my girl. So he says some things and he steps up and he's just like, back off. And they looking at him like, nigga, you ain't finna do shit. Fuck out my face. And so Junichi kind of says again, it's like, hey, that's my girl you talking to, bro. Best step off. And so he's like, all right, bet. And then they push him to the ground. And then that's when Ranko's like, you know what, boys? Let's have some fun. I know a great alley we can go to have some real fun. They're like, oh yeah. And basically Ranko beats the living shit out of these two dudes. And Ranko basically tells him, yeah, I know martial arts. I know how to whoop niggas' asses. Later on that day, Ranko shows up at Junichi's house, forcing herself onto him, and is like, come on, dude, I know you want it. She's basically saying, dude, I know you trying to hit this. I know you trying to hit this, bro. Come on now. You ain't slick. I know you kinda, yeah, she's pretty and stuff, but I mean, come on. Look at me. You can't resist me. I'm silky, shiny, smooth, boy. I got this work. Come on now. And Junichi's like, no, girl, quit playing. Get off me. I ain't about that. I love Yukana. And if I'm going to lose my virginity, it's going to be with the girl I love, and that happens to be Yukana. Don't know why this happens in every anime series, but Yukana just randomly happens to be at Junichi's front door, and she sees that his shirt's ripped, clothes are kinda off, and she's like, oh my gosh, Junichi, what the fuck? And then, it's like, Yukana, it ain't like that. Hey, get your friend, Yukana, it ain't like that. And so basically Ranko kind of confronts, kind of comes clean, and it's just not comes clean, but she says, I was just testing Junichi, says his faithfulness to you, and he passed. He definitely really likes you, so you don't have to worry about anything happening. And she's like, okay, cool, because for a sec, I thought y'all was finna, do the nasty no-no. And then she's like, no, that's not gonna happen. And basically Ranko confesses her love for Yukana. So basically Ranko was saying that she is in love with Yukana, and in her mind she's like, it's not fair that Junichi gets to date her when I want to be with her. She is the only person I love on this world, and I want her. After all this plays out, you see that Yui was watching in the distance, and it's just like, why is everybody peeping and watching from a distance in this show? It's kind of like, damn, what's up? So then you get to episode 4, My First Serious Gown. which basically Yue reminisces herself, seemingly satisfied as being greeted by her classmates, especially Junichi. And one night Junichi conducts research on gals and ended up in an online show featuring a stylish girl who betrays people while her followers agrees through the chat. Imagine it has the same kind of like format setup as Twitch, but it's almost like an OnlyFans, but a more somewhat censored OnlyFans. Basically, at school, Yui arrives, her classmates greet her. Secretly, Yui treats them as like their low-life peasants, and like they're her and that's like her butlers and maids. And in her head, she'll be like, yeah, that's right, peasants. Say hello to me. Treat your queen like she is a queen. Treat me like I am your master. You all are under me. That kind of weird shit. And it's just like, okay, this girl has an ego bigger than my. And then she has some sort of ulterior motive, some form of egotistic, narcissistic god complex going on. Keigo, along with Junichi, Shinpei, and Manaru, discuss the girl that, they saw last night online, and he shows them on his phone, the girl that he sees, and Shinpei is kind of like, she looks kind of familiar. So one night Shinpei just kind of like goes in and watches one of these live chats, does some work on the side, and puts two and two together because he's like, this girl is talking about stuff, like as if she goes to a school, talking about her peers. And it's like, And now that you mention it, she has the same facial features as this girl I know that's in my class. So then he puts two and two together and he's like, holy crap, this girl online is Yui, my classmate. So then later on, they go to, before, Shinpei says all this stuff, Yui is like trying to get Junichi away from Yukana by saying, hey, I need help with this, can you help me with this and that. And so they go to a cafe, Yui starts judging their relationship and it's just like, dude, does she even like you? Like, do you even like her? Like, why you guys are dating if you really don't even know each other? And stuff like that. And Junichi's kind of like, I don't know. It's just kind of like, I don't know. I was kind of like, are we even, to me, it's like, are we even dating? Like, Junichi starts thinking that kind of stuff. He's like, are you kind of not even a thing? Like, what the heck? Like, I don't even know. It's weird. Basically, within that same episode, Yui takes Junichi on the rooftop of a school and confesses her love to Junichi, and Junichi like turns her down. And in the beginning of a series, you kind of think it's like, wow, Junichi could have ended up with Yui if this whole Yukana thing hadn't happened. He really could have shoot a shot and he could have had her. Junichi's like, that's flattering and sweet, but I'm with Yukana. Yui starts to like basically just go off on Junichi. Junichi's like, what the fuck's your problem? And so basically the whole squad comes up except for Yukana and Nene, and they just kind of like, hey, Yui, we know who you really are, and unless you want to keep your fucking mouth shut and back off and leave Yukana and Junichi alone, I suggest you shut the fuck up and back down. That's basically what Ranko says, because Ranko, she kind of got that hood mentality to her. She agrees and she's like, this isn't over. You're gonna be with me one way or another. And it's super weird. So then we go to episode 5, which is my first half-assed girl. Junichi's having a dream and stuff like that about Yukana, and he wakes up and there's this girl with pink hair on his bed, and it's revealed to be Nene, who got this makeover. And and on the way to school, she's like clinging on to Junichi, which makes his perverted friends like jealous, like, oh my gosh, what is up with Junichi? First it's Yukana, he gets Yukana, then Ranko tries to get some of that, then Yui, and now this other girl, Nene? What the fuck, dude? Like, save some for us. Like, you taking all the girls, nigga, what the fuck's wrong with you? That's basically how they are. As the day goes on, Yui tries to make amends with Junichi, kind of like, hey, I'm sorry about what happened, but then Nene steps in the picture and starts flaming Yui, calling her not so developed and stuff, and they kind of go back and forth, and it's just like, look, Junichi's like, look, y'all, I gotta go. At lunch and everything, they're all sitting together, Yukana, Ranko, and Junichi, they're sitting together, and Nene just kind of comes in and is just kind of like low-key flaming Yukana, and basically Junichi introduces Nene to Yukana and Renko, and it's like, hey, this is my girlfriend, Yukana, this is Renko, and hey guys, this is my childhood best friend, or one of my childhood friends, Nene. And they all kind of just talk, and they flame each other. Yukana is like not really flaming her as much as Nene is flaming her. Renko flames Nene a lot too, which is kind of funny. And it's just kind of like one of these things where they kind of go back and forth a bit, just kind of getting to really know each other. And Yui's just kind of like, like, who the hell is it? Like, what the fuck? So on her little show that she does, where she portrays and cosplays as a kind of like an alter ego, she starts dissing Nene to her fellow classmates, and it's just like, can you believe this girl? Like, who does she think she is? And all this stuff. And later on that night, Nene sneaks into Junichi's bed, and this time she's naked. But at this point, near the end of the series, she appears naked on top of Junichi in his bed, and he's like, yo, what the hell? Like, Nene, what are you doing? And Nene's pretty much just kind of like, I want you, Junichi. Like, I want my first time to be with you. I want you to take me. And it's just like, Junichi's like, hey, right, Nene, I ain't finna do this. No. And he's just like, like, what the hell's going on? Like, no, kind of covers her up, and it's just like, look, you and I are friends. And then this is where you kind of get to see that pact that they made that I mentioned in the beginning of the anime series, where they talked about how if they weren't with anyone in the future, that they would get together. Nene is a freshman, too, so let me just point that out there. Like, not like it matters, but she's just a freshman in high school. She's really sad and stuff. She ends up vowing that she will get Junichi, and basically kind of copies the same style as Yukana, and looks up like the definition of a gal, and just basically starts to talk like a gal, starts, talking like Yukana, acting like Yukana, and dressing like Yukana. So then we get to episode 6, which is my first time at Yami's house, which basically Shinpei comes up with some perverted plan to where they all go over to Yukana's house, and what it is, all the girls come over, all the guys come over, they play this game where basically you have to do like perverted stuff. You dare people you all get numbered, and you dare others to do perverted stuff to you and stuff like that. It's like this weird kind of concept. It's basically called the King Game, and Junichi's like, I don't know about this. And so he's like, dude, just think about it. It's gonna be totally worth it. So then Yukana's like, hey, my parents are out of town for a while, so I was thinking maybe you can come over. And Junichi's like putting 2 and 2 together. He's like, oh man, Yukana might just trying to, get this work. So he's like, okay, cool. But then, it's just kind of like, hey, can we invite some other people over too? And Yukana's like, dude, you just totally ruined it. But you know what? Whatever. Yes, invite whoever the hell you want. And so then all these girls like, great. Yui's like, I'm coming over too. And then Renko was like, nobody invited you though. Like, who is you? This is an ABCD conversation, not ABCDE conversation, bitch. So step off. And then she's like, nah, I'm still coming over. Nene's like, great, I'll come over too. And then Yukana's just like, great, why don't you just invite your perverted friends? And Junichi's like, perfect, I will. And so they all come over, they all play this game. The girls are kind of like, I don't think I like this type of game. I don't like what's going on. And so then Renko starts messing with them, and basically whatever perverted stuff the guys wanted the girls to do to them, Renko ends up making the guys do perverted stuff to each other, like forcing Shinpei and Junichi to make out with, like, French making out. Well, they don't show it, but it's just like, and it's just weird stuff like that, and they end up basically having a ball. They all have a blast, and everybody's just, having fun. So then after everyone is invited over and stuff like that, Yukana comes up with this idea of, summer vacation's around the corner. Why don't we go to the beach? And then, we go to like a hot springs and stay somewhere for the night. And everybody's like, that's great, but we don't have money for that. And so everybody agrees to get a part-time job to save the money, and they're all gonna go on summer vacation together. So now we go into episode 7 called My First Job. So basically Shinpei discusses to his friends like, hey, let's all get these part-time jobs. I'm gonna help us out. I actually got everybody jobs. Junichi gets a job working at the maid cafe with the girls. Shinpei and Kango get a job working at a manga store, and Manaru gets a job working at a child daycare place, which is really, I'm not even gonna go into that. And the girls get jobs working at a maid cafe, which basically dress up as cosplay and they serve dues. Everybody, you see as the episode goes on, everybody's progressing at their job. Shinpei is doing an excellent job. He's like ahead of everything that his boss is assigning him to do, and he ends up being in charge for one day while his boss steps out, and they're just ranking in that money. The girls are kind of like, hey, this job isn't all that bad, but their sleazy supervisor at the maid cafe has them, he comes up with this elaborate scheme to have them read these really exotic, explicit, overly sexualized books to the customers of the cafe. And it's like those erotic novels where the people have, coitus, I guess you can say it. The girls start reading the books out loud, and you can see some of them are kind of getting a pleasure out of it. Junichi's kind of like, yo, ho, chill out, this is kind of making me uncomfortable. And so they all get upset, and they're like, yo, what the fuck? Like, I'm not gonna do this. Like, this is gross. And so Yui's like, I got a plan. And so Yui goes and reports him to the head boss. The head boss gets chewed out, and they call off that whole thing that he had planned. And surprisingly, that dude still keeps his job. Basically, what happens is at the end of the episode, or a post-credit scene, they end up getting the money. They all end up meeting at the beach, and they all head off, have a great time. So then you get to episode 8, My First Trip. Junichi, Yukana, and the whole gang end up going to the beach. But the girls are kind of having a good time. They're hanging out. All the girls are trying to get Junichi's attention. Like, Yukana's trying to get his attention because, Yukana's his girl. Nene's trying to get his attention. Yui's trying to get his attention. Ranko's trying to get Yukana's attention. And, the guys are just kind of like, well, that's great. Junichi's hogging all the girls, and it's just like, there's nothing for us. So they kind of just pout the whole damn time. There's this whole scene with the hot springs, and, Shinpei develops this elaborate scheme to see the girls nude. And I'm not gonna go into detail with what the girls are doing at the hot springs, but the girls are kind of having their own little fun, talking about each other in a developmental way, and it kind of goes that route, if you get what I'm saying. Junichi's like, hey man, I ain't trying to spy on Yukana and the girls because I could lose, their trust. I ain't about that. And Shinpei's like, look, I got this elaborate scheme. And then, Keigo's like, but wait a minute, this place is like heavily guarded. There's some dude who's like on some like Call of Duty Black Ops type ish who like keeps peeping Toms out. And so they come up with this plan, they get pretty far, but this dude ends up hunting them down and taking them out one by one. And Junichi's just kind of like, look, I'm out. And the boys end up getting like taken down pretty much. See this whole firework display at the beach, it's just basically just overall a perfect night. At the post-credit scene, or at the end of the episode, Yukana and Junichi are, they head back to the city after the vacation, and they're just kind of like, man, that was fun. And it was like, yeah, that was a really great time. And this guy comes up who Yukana used to know, or was formerly equated with. Yukana greets him, and it's just like, oh, I think his name was Dean. Geen. I could be wrong. I'll have to look and see as I continue going on. But Junichi kind of gets like a little like, well, who the fuck's this nigga? And this leads into episode 9, which is My First Fight. So basically, Yukana's middle school friend, his name is Dai Matara. I think it's Dai Matara. So basically, he bumps into her and Junichi begins to feel like, what the heck? Because Dai looks like supermodel material, and it's just kind of like, I don't fit that picture, so how could I be Yukana's type after all if this Dai guy is like her dream guy? And they're like, Dai and Yukana are laughing, reminiscing on good times, and Junichi's just kind of like, he feels kind of left out. And so Yukana's like, oh yeah, this is my boyfriend Junichi, we've been dating for a while now and stuff like that. So basically, after kind of overthinking things, Junichi's like, oh, I think he likes her. So then he leaves in a huff, which leaves Yukana feeling like shit, pretty much. And during school, Junichi tries to make an attempt to talk to Yukana, but it fails. And then, you know, basically they get into a fight over the whole ordeal. And, you know, his friends try to cheer him up, you know, by going to the karaoke bar. And it ends up working. Like, he ends up having fun, singing the anime themes, kind of just forgetting about the whole ordeal. But it backfires when they see Yukana talking to Dai. And after their conversation the other day, Junichi basically ran up on Yukana and is just like, yo, what the fuck? Like, what the fuck's going on? So you like him more than me? Like, are you cheating on me and stuff like that? She's like, what are you talking about, Junichi? Like, nigga, get the fuck out of my face. And basically